Hello and welcome back to the channel. In today's stream, we are going to cover prediction markets, which, unless you've been living under a rock, are the latest and hottest thing. From Wall Street to news to investors to traders, everyone is using prediction markets or referencing them in their work. Tonight, we're going to discuss how to use them, how I've been using them, how I've been testing it over the last few weeks, how to get the most out of them, and what information you can actually gather from prediction markets. We're going to look at Polymarket, which is the main prediction market, along with Kalshi, and we're also going to talk about another couple that are coming on the scene over the next few weeks. But I think this is a big market moving forward, and I do think long term there's going to be hundreds, if not thousands, of prediction markets. Let me know in the comments if you've used them, if you have opened an account, if you've not used it, what you think of them, what you think of the data you can get from them, and make sure to like this video as well. So let's start with some basics on Polymarket. First off, if you're in the UK, you will need a VPN to access Polymarket. I use a VPN, ExpressVPN. There is a link in the description if you need one. But ultimately what a prediction market is it's almost like trading. You're buying shares in a market. Now that has significant benefits. It also untaps a whole host of data because it's global. People are trading on them 24/7, and it just unlocks a lot more information than a simple betting site. Now, I've been testing this for a few weeks. This is a really hot craze. We'll go through some information about prediction markets, then I'll show you how I use them, what information I can get from them, and then we'll maybe put on a couple of predictions as well. So if we look through some news stories, you can see every day it feels like there's a new news story about a prediction market. Myriad partners with Trust Wallet, so there's now actually an in-wallet prediction market on Trust Wallet. Kalshi is tokenizing thousands of prediction markets. So Kalshi is really taking a big step into the crypto world and actually tokenizing these markets. We'll go into it shortly, but the prediction markets are like a crypto market in a sense. You're trading against other people. When you buy shares in a market, someone has to sell shares in that market. So you have to think about the order book, the depth of the market, and the liquidity, just like you would if you were trading a meme coin or a crypto token. Here we see CoinDesk talking about why there were so many bets and so much speculation on strategy buying Bitcoin this week. There was loads of different markets around MicroStrategy, how big their buy was going to be this week, were they even going to buy some Bitcoin, and we'll look at some of the MicroStrategy markets shortly. Another story, prediction markets deepen the information asymmetry. So this kind of hits home at one of the biggest use cases for prediction markets. Not only are they designed to gamble and make a bit of money, but they actually give us a lot of information. If anyone remembers the Trump election, it was actually a prediction market that called every single state correctly. And the reason they were able to do that rather than polls was because people are more honest when there's money on it. If people are putting money on a prediction, typically they either have an edge, some information, especially when it's big $1 million bets. So prediction markets were actually more accurate about the Trump winning the election than the polls with CNN, CNBC, and all these news stations. And lastly, valuations are skyrocketing. Kalshi's valuation is up to over $11 billion, and that's just in the last few weeks. They raised over $1 billion, and I think this market is going to be a multi-$100 billion company market in the not too distant future. I think 2026 is going to be huge for prediction markets. And unlike sports betting and gambling and things like that, prediction markets can be used a bit more, I want to say intellectually, but I could be wrong. But give me your thoughts. Let me know what you think. All right, let's dive into Polymarket. So as you can see, top right hand corner, I've been messing about with a few $100s, nothing crazy. For anyone that's on the channel, you'll know I invest in crypto. I wouldn't say I'm a mad gambler, but prediction markets have kind of piqued my interest, and especially when, you know, crypto markets are kind of trading sideways, this is something quite interesting, but you can actually use this in your financial investing portfolio, and I'll explain how in a few minutes. So at the top, you've got trending markets. You can see a lot of football markets, a lot of sports markets because of the time of day. You've got a lot of political, financial, and of course you've got crypto markets. Now, let's take an easy, so let's look at the Inter Milan versus Liverpool market right now. As you can see, if you want to buy a share on Inter Milan winning tonight, you buy one share for 46 cents. If that comes in, you get $1 per share. If Liverpool win, right now to bet on them, it is 30 cents per share. So it's almost a 3x if Liverpool win tonight. Now, the beauty of Polymarket is you can actually bet on an outcome, but you don't have to wait on a result. So, for example, you can bet on Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua, and as the fight gets closer, you could sell 3 or 4 days before the fight actually happens. The benefit of this is new information comes out all the time. If you were betting on Manchester City winning the Premier League and Haaland gets injured in January, the odds will probably drop quite dramatically. That gives you new information. You might want to get out of that bet before the end of the season. But it also gives you an edge in the market. Now, one of the things I've been looking at, especially with sports recently, is I'm always looking for where there's an edge in a market. So if we look at the English Premier League for this weekend, let me have a look. Let me see. So this is a prime example. West Ham, 26 cents per share to win against Aston Villa. Aston Villa, 48 cents. So, of course, the draw can absolutely ruin the bet for you. However, the odds are that one of these teams will win. There's more of a chance that one team will win than a draw. So you can actually bet both sides, and throughout the game, you can buy or sell more shares. So the way I've been testing it with some sports bets is I've been betting on teams and then adding or removing shares as the match progresses. Somebody might score, that changes the odds. Somebody might lose their star player, and you can sell before the outcome. On top of that, we could learn tomorrow that Aston Villa's John McGinn is injured for the match, and his odds then become much less, or their odds become much less of winning the game. So for me, it's quite an exciting thing. It means that there's always something happening. But the real interesting ones for me come in the finance and crypto space. Some of the geopolitical ones are quite interesting as well. But the interesting thing for me is how you can find edge in any market. You can find ways of betting on an outcome of an event and not having to see it play out. So this one for me is quite an exciting one, or an interesting one. How many Fed rate cuts will there be in 2026? Now, right now, the market is most favourable position is 3 with 23%. But even if that happens, you can still 4x your money if you win. So you bet $20 on 3 rate cuts in 2026 and you'll earn $86.96. I think the key thing for me when we're talking about these numbers, for anyone watching, is I've literally put $300 in my account. So we're not talking crazy thousands of dollars, but the key thing, just like crypto trading, is it's about percentage gains. If you can make, even if you were making 10, 20% little margins regularly, that all adds up and it compounds quite quickly. So a 4x return is huge. Now, the reason why I think this one's exciting is because tomorrow we have a Fed meeting and we're likely going to learn how many rate cuts they think will happen over the next 12 months. So that'll change these odds dramatically tomorrow. So you might take this here, 3 rate cuts in 2026 at 23 cents. Tomorrow, the prediction might go to 50% chance of 3 rate cuts in 2026. You've doubled your money and you don't have to wait for next year to come in order to realise your gains. I'll show you some of the bets I've taken recently. As you can see, I'm slightly down. I'm sure it shows my positions. So right now I've got a bet on that the Fed will cut 3 times in a row. So cut rates tomorrow, January and March. I bet $70. If that comes in, I make $1,000. Will Bitcoin reach $200,000 before the end of 2026? That was quite low, so $35 gets me 227. And then I've got some football bets, and these were just to test the market. So I've taken both sides of this game. My theory is that chances are somebody will win. Okay, I can get wiped out by the draw, but either way, I would make my bet plus some profit no matter who wins this game. But again, you can sell before the outcome. This one was an interesting one. Will Jake Paul actually fight Anthony Joshua? This spiked earlier today. We could go into it. You can see the chance was 94% when I put the bet on. It actually dropped as low as 71% today. I should have probably cashed out at that point. But right now, I'm about flat, and there's not a lot of money on the table either. I'll show you some of my past bets as well. We had... Let me find some wins. So Borussia Dortmund to win the other night. They won, so I made $35. Crystal Palace, $57. That was quite a nice bet. Napoli to win against Juventus. So I actually took both sides. Napoli were the least favourite, so that actually made me more money. The biggest thing I've learned from playing about with these prediction markets is it's not about winning or losing. It's about making percentage gains in every market you bet in. So I think Juventus, I lost maybe $30, but I made $80 on Napoli winning. So profit on that was $50. Happy with that. And that's kind of how I play it. I've had some other, the Lakers versus Celtics, won that. Chris Duncan, so you'll know Crypto Glasgow sponsor Chris Duncan. Bet on him at the weekend. He wasn't actually the favourite. Made some money on Chris Duncan. And I've closed some early bets as well. As you can see, I quite like Napoli. The other thing for me is you can actually make some really good gains really quickly. So if we go back to sports is probably the thing I know the best other than finance, but finance moves a bit slower. But if we look at this, for example, Barcelona versus Frankfurt tonight. Barcelona are massive favourites to win. 88 cents gets you Barcelona shares. So if you buy $20 worth, you're only going to make $22.73. But that's still a 12% return. Now, if you make that 3 or 4 times a day and you can multiply that across the week, you can slowly start accumulating small wins. And that's kind of what my strategy is going to be going forward. Once I close out some of these bets I've got, what I'm actually going to start doing is just trying to compound small wins all the time. Let's check in on the Liverpool game, because I think Liverpool, they've been terrible recently, which is fair enough. And you can see, so this one, for example, this one is a prime example of a bet I would look for. So Atletico Madrid are getting beat 1-0 after 15 minutes. So they're now, it's like 4-1 to win the game. So you can make some nice odds on a team that goes behind, but you're pretty confident they're going to win overall. This is just sports. Now, if we flip over to crypto, as you know, if you watch the channel, you'll know crypto is our big focus. Some of these are really interesting. The MicroStrategy ones are super interesting. And again, a lot of edge to be made. So, for example, will MicroStrategy be margin called in 2025? Absolutely no chance that's happening. There is a good chance that MicroStrategy will be delisted from the MSCI index. It's 74% favorability right now. I would take the other side of that because there's not a lot of volume, which tells me there's not a lot of smart money in the market. That's not insulting MD. It just, when big bets, let me find a market in crypto. So if we go to, let's have a look. Will Bitcoin hit 80k or 150k first? There's $600,000 in that market. So that's a market you would pay more attention to, because smart money, there's big money on the line. Again, I would probably take the 150k side before 80k. But the MicroStrategy ones are interesting, and they can actually give you some insights into how the Wall Street or smart investors are looking at the market. Now, if we look across, you can see that you can do daily markets. So will the S&P 500 finish up or down on a certain day? 62% chance that the S&P 500 finishes up today. With an hour to go, 62% is not bad. Where is the S&P 500? So the S&P 500's slightly down today, but it's going to close green, I think. So I suppose that's why it's hanging in the balance. It's quite an interesting one. Fed decisions, a lot of Fed ones, a lot about Nvidia, a lot about the big tech stocks as well, which just gives you an insight out into how market participants are viewing the market, and you can use this information to your advantage. Some of the other ones I like are, some of the geopolitical ones are quite funny. So there's some about Trump. There's loads of markets that you can bet on. And again, will the EU dissolve before 2027? Okay, there's no chance that will happen. But when it's a 4% chance, if you put, let's go into it. You've got 2 years as well. So let's take yes. For $20, we can make $471 if it comes in. All you need something to happen is that market to spike to 10%. You double your money. You don't need the actual outcome to play out. And that's why I love prediction markets. You can bet on anything in the future, and you don't need to wait and see if it comes true, because you can just cash in whenever you like. Now, the one thing I would say, and I'll go back to some sports because it probably matters more for sports. Let's go to the Champions League. If we go here, you do need to be careful with the order book. There's quite a deep order book for this game because it's a big game. It's Champions League. There's 1.2 million volume on this market. Some of the smaller markets, let me find one. So the PSV Atletico, for example, if you wanted to put a decent bid on one of the teams, you do have to remember there is still slippage. It is very like crypto. There is slippage to take into account. That becomes even more of a problem when you bet on some of the lesser known games. So I think they do have Scottish football. I just can't see. It maybe isn't on here for tonight. They maybe just show the top markets in the next few days. But if we look at some of the Scottish teams, so for example, Rangers versus Ferencváros on Thursday night, there's only $2,000 volume. So if you were to buy Rangers and put $100 on, you're probably going to get a bit of slippage there, just because there's not a lot of depth in the order book. So, but yeah, for me, prediction markets, they're the hottest thing right now. For sports, they're a bit of fun. For finance, crypto, earnings, I think this will become a big focus as we move into 2026. So the example I heard somebody discussing was if you're bullish on Tesla, for example, and you don't want to buy or sell your Tesla stock, you could just bet on the outcome of their earnings call. So will Tesla beat on deliveries? Will Tesla beat their earnings prediction? And you can just use prediction markets rather than trying to buy and sell the stock around earnings calls. That's quite clunky. The market closes. You maybe don't get your order executed. You can just go on a prediction market. You don't have to sell your stock in that company. And again, if you hold Tesla stock and you want to hold it long term for the next 5 years, but you're maybe short term bearish for some particular reason. Maybe you're short term bearish on Tesla deliveries for Q4 of 2025. Maybe in January you bet against them beating earnings, or you bet against the stock just short term, and that kind of hedges your exposure, but you're naturally long the stock because you hold it long term. So there's a lot of interesting ways where you can use this in finance and investing, rather than just sports betting, like we discussed. I think next year this will become a big thing. Some of the tech ones focused around AI. There was one I saw for GTA 6, which was about an advert coming out next year. Again, all you need is a rumor about GTA 6 to come out, and the share price of that bet rises, you sell, and you can make money without it actually happening. All right, let's try and find some that we can actually bet on. Let me try and find. We've got $32 to spend. Let's go wild. Well, let me try and find the Bitcoin one that said 80k or 150k first. Yeah, this one here. So let's go into it. Gives you more information if you go into it. $605,000 volume, with a 77% chance it hits 80k before we hit 150k. So if we say, so we can make 4x our money if it hits 150k. I think we can do better than that. Let's see if there's better bets. As you know, if you saw my bets earlier, you'll see I've already got that. I think Bitcoin will hit 180k and 190k in 2026. So 5x on those bets as well. And again, we're just messing about spare money. It's not thousands of dollars on these bets. And we've got $35 on Bitcoin hitting 200k. The interesting thing about this one is all it takes is Bitcoin to rally in the next few weeks, and the odds of this will spike, and then we can cash out. So I wouldn't be holding most of these open long term. Let me find some decent Bitcoin. So do we think Bitcoin will hit 105k before the end of the year? 4-1. I think that's pretty good odds, to be fair. 95. See, this is where you can make short-term gains. So Bitcoin's currently trading at 93k. We got as high as $94,500 earlier today. So right now you can make 22% or 20% now. It's going down, just by betting that Bitcoin's going to go to 95k. It's only a $500 move. To me, that's almost a certainty that that's going to happen in the next 3 weeks, and you can make 20%. So if you were betting $1,000, you make $200. Like, you can compound this so quickly, and you can make some really short-term gains pretty quickly. So let's just do this just for a bit of fun. Let me see. It might not let me work because I think I had to turn my. There, it worked. Happy days. And let's find a sports one we can take that's decent odds. Let's have a look. One of the ways I've used it recently as well is if you know about a specific sport or specific team, you can bet on. Polymarket's not the best at pricing all the time, so you can bet on if you have some inside knowledge or you just have some expert knowledge, you can use that to your advantage. So the other night, for example, Napoli, Juventus were favourites to beat Napoli, but obviously Napoli are top of the league, Napoli are flying, so bet on Napoli. I think I made 3x my money because I know that Napoli are on better form. Polymarket doesn't seem to be that accurate with football, especially British football. Right, I think the best one here. See, that's good odds. Atalanta to beat Chelsea in Italy. 13 cents. You can make, what, 6x your money? I think that's pretty good odds. And again, all you need is Atalanta to go ahead or something to happen in the match, and then you make your money. So let's just put $12 on. Make $92. And all we need is Atalanta to score or Chelsea to go down to 10 men or something like that happen. So there's multiple ways you can use prediction markets across finance, across crypto. Some of the interesting ones are, if you go to culture, you can say who's going to win person of the year. Some interesting ones about Trump, about movies. There's a lot about Spotify right now, who's going to be the top Spotify artist of the year. Number one song on Spotify this week. Another critical incident about Cloudflare. They're a bit of fun. Like I say, I wouldn't necessarily be putting thousands of dollars in, but if there is something you have a bit of an edge or a bit of an understanding or a bit of expert knowledge about, you can make really quick gains. And like I say, you can be making 10-20% every single day really easily, to be honest. I think it's a bit of a hack. There we go. So we just bet on Atalanta to win against Chelsea, and we're up 100% on our money already. I take it they've scored. No? So maybe they had a goal disallowed or something because it's dropped back down. But we're already up 108% on that. You can see Bitcoin to hit 95k by the end of the month is already up. We're already in profit on that as well. We just put that on. And some of these will fluctuate. Like I said, Jake Paul was up 30% today. Should have taken the money, but it's $9. I'm not really too interested. All right, so that's prediction markets. They are going to be massive next year. I think they're going to eventually start coming to Europe. I feel like America's first and everybody's paying attention. I don't think they're big in the UK and Europe right now. The VPN obviously makes it a bit challenging. If you want to play on Polymarket, it's on the Polygon network. So you need to make sure you send funds to the Polygon network. But I wanted to talk to you just briefly about Predictfully. So Predictfully is on Avalanche, and right now it's free to bet, and it's all a point system. The first cash market on Predictfully goes live this month. But for somebody that maybe just wants to get used to it, just wants to test how it works, how prediction markets work without necessarily having to spend any cash, this might be quite an interesting one. And they've got different markets as well. So Predictfully uses Calculate, not Polymarket. But you're going to get different markets, you're going to get different information, different volumes, and it's free. This one here, Erling Haaland score versus Real Madrid for Man City. 14% yes. That seems like a really good odds bet. I've got some points here. Let's just put them all on. Let's just do that. Not sure if this will work. I've not actually logged into Predictfully in a while. So we've bet on yes, Haaland will score against Real Madrid tomorrow night, and decent odds, to be fair. So check out Predictfully. So it's predictfully.app. They have some really interesting markets, slightly different as well from Polymarket. And it's free. It's a point system right now. They will be releasing a token in 2026 as well, so you can earn points right now, and I'm sure that will contribute towards the token allocation. Let's check in on our bets. Let me see. Atlanta still. I think that's a mistake. I don't think that's right. Let me try and sell it. So you can also, similar to trading crypto, you can actually sell and use limit orders. So you can You don't literally have to do anything. You don't have to be in front of the computer. So Atlanta to win, we've got 92 shares. We can say if the odds go to, say, 35, we'll sell our 92 shares at 35 cents. And it'll just go through like a limit order, just like trading crypto or FX or whatever you trade. You can use limit orders the exact same way. That way that, you know, all it takes is a spike in the market and you can make some money. You can also average down your buy-in. So our buy right now, Chelsea have just scored. So our average buy for Atlanta was 13 cents. The market is now down. Oh, they've had it disallowed. But if the market goes down to like 10, 11 cents, you can average down your buy price as well, just like crypto, just like trading. And then you've got all the other markets as well. So you've got handicaps, you've got total goals, you've got both teams to score, and there's a bit of a comment section as well. To be honest, I actually use it more for just checking out what's happening, just to get a feel for the market outside of Twitter, especially for crypto, especially for finance stuff. It's really handy for just building your own kind of thoughts about what is actually happening in the market. Will Bitcoin go to, you know, if we look at this market, for example, will Bitcoin go to 120k before the end of the year? There's only a 3% chance, and there's almost $3 million worth of bets. So to me, I'd say that is very, very unlikely. But it could all change, and that's why it's so exciting. So that is prediction markets. Polymarket's my favorite so far that I've used, but predictably looks like it's going to be pretty cool. It's on Avalanche, which makes it quite unique as well. It's got different markets, and right now it's free to use. It's a points-based system, and you can test it out for free without depositing actual cash. They will be releasing a token in the new year, so that might be something to be interested in. But yeah, hopefully that educated some people. Try to understand the hype around them, because there is a lot of hype, a lot of valuations, a lot of money being thrown at prediction markets. But the more money invested in the actual markets gives you more accurate information. Long term, they're going to be a big driver of narratives as well. So that is our stream on prediction markets. I hope you enjoyed that. If you want more information like this, make sure to like the video. We'll be back with another stream this week on AI, how I use AI every single day, what I use, what tools I use, and how it benefits me every single day. So make sure you're subscribed and tune in for that. Until then, I will see you all very soon. Thanks for watching.